Good morning. This is Holly with Holly's Joys, and I am going to read our chapter 3 of the book that I've been working on, which is called The Next 12 Steps. And if you have not seen the first couple of videos, I did do an introduction video to the book and chapter 1 and chapter 2. So this will be the fourth video so far, and I will continue until we're completely finished. And you'll have to forgive some little miscabobbles. That's part of the reason I'm doing this, is just to kind of see how it flows, and hopefully that it's helpful to those of you who have difficult relationships, or relationships in which you're challenged personally in, for lack of a better way of putting it. Well, here we go. This is chapter 3, Power. Today, I have power in my own life. I recognize everyone has power in their own life. I do not have to act or react as I have in the past. I need help to use my power to change myself. Chapter 3, Power. Now we're going to explore some choices and process of choosing. This is an exploration recognizing your own power in your life. Great news, because I've harnessed some of this power, so maybe you can too. Choose. Let's think about the ability to choose. I have not always felt I had a choice about how I feel or my emotions around my loved one and the dis-ease of addiction's chaotic presence. I have spent several years practicing making a conscious decision around my emotions and feelings. And guess what? I can choose, and that revelation has changed my outlook for the better. So let's look at some of the topics I struggled with, and examine the choices around those areas. I choose to. Number 1, sometimes I get caught up in the should, would, and could of dealing with my loved one's dis-ease of addiction. I recognize this is a negative judgment about myself. Instead, I choose to be patient with myself and others. Number 2, sometimes I feel lonely because I hid to protect myself from my loved one's dis-ease of addiction. I recognize my isolating is closing me off from happiness and the joy of living. Instead, I choose to be open and connect with my life. Number 3, sometimes I am afraid of the potential consequences of my loved one's dis-ease of addiction, for me and for them. I recognize fear does not change the situation. Instead, I choose to replace fear with courage to be happy and joyful. Number 4, sometimes I worry so much I get lost in the loop of worry over my loved one's dis-ease of addiction. I recognize this takes from me without giving in return. Instead, I choose to use my energy to have love and compassion. 5, sometimes I'm angry about having to deal with my loved one's dis-ease of addiction. I recognize my anger makes me feel bad about myself and unhappy about my life. Instead, I choose to be calm and balanced in my actions and reactions. Number 6, sometimes I feel ashamed about my loved one's disease of addiction. I recognize this disease is not my fault and I cannot fix it. Instead, I choose to be grateful for my life and all that is in it. Number 7, sometimes I feel guilty about my loved one's disease of addiction. I recognize I'm not responsible for anyone else's life. Instead, I choose to be respectful of others and accountable to myself. Number 8, sometimes I enable my loved one's disease of addiction by doing things for them that they are responsible to do for themselves. I recognize I'm overstepping boundaries, and that takes away from my life. Instead, I choose to take care of my own business and make room for others to do the same. Number 9, sometimes I feel grief, ambiguous grief, over my loved one's disease of addiction. I recognize I had expectation over someone else's life. Instead, I choose to honor others' choices and the way of living by loving them without expectation or attachment. Number 10, sometimes I take on financial responsibilities for managing my loved one's dis-ease of addiction by paying bills and providing them with cash. I recognize this is harmful to my own finances. and I had not helped my loved one's situation but hurt my own. Instead, I choose to take financial responsibility only for myself. 11. Sometimes I feel deep sadness over my loved one's disease of addiction. I recognize my sadness does not add anything to their life, but does detract from mine. I choose to sow the seeds of happiness in my life. 12. Sometimes I pressure myself to behave perfectly at all times. I recognize this is unreasonable and creates a heavy burden on my life. I choose to have calm understanding and love towards myself. Let me just give you a disclaimer reminder. I'm not a mental health professional nor a medical professional. I am someone who has exercised my personal power to make choices that have profoundly improved my happiness and increased my joy for living. This is month 3, Power, week 1 of month 3. Examine the definitions you have in your belief system surrounding personal power. Ask yourself questions. Do I have power in my life? You may be surprised by your honest answers. Week 2. Experiment with making choices with your own personal power in mind. Raising your awareness around this topic may feel good to you. Week 3. Begin making decisions from your own empowered life. Decisions that you really want. Pay attention to outcomes. Make alterations in your beliefs around personal power and deem it as you deem it fit. Week 4, the reflection week. Number 1, you have the power to do things differently. Number 2, you have the power to choose to uplift your own life no matter what others are doing in their life. Week 3, you have power to make new habits and make new choices. Number 4, now exercise your power to be patient and loving with yourself and others. Making better choices has helped me find a happier and more joyful life, and more importantly, I feel much more self-empowered. Maybe you can too. That leads us to the next topic, self-focus. So let's check it out together next time, and I'll see you later. Please follow, like, share, do all the things, and know that you're very much appreciated on your journey, and I wish for you today that you feel self-empowered. Thanks again. Bye.